Hello and welcome back to Mechabellum. My name is Volcata, and we just got out of a 2v2 match that we kind of tried to turn on a strategy that we have had good favor with in the past, which is lines of marksman, because, well, marksmen are really, really powerful, and the opportunity really presented itself for us to do so. I did this, however, knowing that they recently nerfed marksman again, and I thought this is going to be a good chance to illustrate how impactful that nerf was and to kind of try it to an extreme. But I know the thumbnail and the title aren't focused on marksman. They're focused on something else that's a little OP. And that's the other reason why we're going to do this. It's going to be a 2-for-1 showcase of how the changes that have come along in the recent patches are reshaping the battlefield. So let's hop into it. All right, starting right off, we're going with the marksman specialist with marksman. Unfortunately, supply specialist was not available to us. But marksman specialist with marksman and mustangs means we really cover anything generically that the opponent might do, as well as any kind of anti-air, and then we can pivot and put down anything that we need for, speed, like crawlers, or anything tanky, arc lights for clearing out AoE, or fangs for general purpose, a little bit tanking because they can get shields eventually. But we see that our opponent is starting with arc lights and phoenixes, and so we just go ahead and double down on our marksman. Figure we can start getting some experience points with them. Whether or not it carries it through isn't that big of a deal. We know they're probably going to go spam units, which they do. They bring in fangs, but we already have mustangs for that. So we're pretty confident that we can get away with extra marksmen in the first round, start building that experience point base so they can be leveled up later on. And once the upgrades start rolling in, they become a terror of the battlefield, at least prior to the nerfs. So let's jump up to round 1 starting. So we've done a nice just straight line here. This way we're kind of prepared for wherever they put anything. As expected, our mustangs are going to handle any kind of basic chaff they start off with, which they do quite handily. And we have our marksmen for their flyers. Pretty simple round 1, at least for our side. And our partner also cleans up cleanly, quite nicely. Round 2, we're going to grab the deployment specialist. I'm back and forth on deployment specialist. Sometimes it is really powerful. Other times it just kind of doesn't get used because the real strength in this game is leveling up your units and giving them new abilities, not just adding more units. But we're going with a fairly cheap unit still. We have marksman. And then what, let's just spam more marksman. I know that this is a bad idea, but I figure we've got hit points to spare, and I want to see really where our opponent is going to dedicate to so that I can respond, because we already have mustangs unlocked. We can come back around and get those. So I just grab more marksmen. Let that firing line start to build up. Now, I don't expect to survive this round, but I don't expect to go down in flames either. Now, our opponent has brought in mustangs, which I believe is a pretty good decision on their part. If I were them, I probably would have expected me to go with some more mustangs, which I probably should have done, but I didn't have enough money to get 3 of them, and I wanted to use that deployment specialist. And predictably, the marksmen are firing too slow to get to the chaff. And their chaff, along with their arc lights going against our 2 squadrons of mustangs, just doesn't give us a front line long enough to win the fight. Not a big deal. Again, we're looking towards late game, not the first couple of rounds. And we want to continue to build up that scaling. Now, this should be, at worst, a draw. But they do have some fangs hiding there in the background. As you can see how everybody is skipping. Photonic coating, it can be pretty good. It's not so good this early on, but there was nothing really good to pick up. I'm going to wait for our partner's choice. So what we've done here is we've dropped in a couple of extra Mustangs. Maybe should have been something we did last round. And we've spent the last of our money getting high explosive ammo so we can deal with the chaff. That's fine. Again, you know, we went with Marksman again last round, trying to get our opponent to commit to a strategy that we can work on countering. And now we're trying to do that. I'm a huge fan of high explosive rounds on Mustangs. They're just superb, both for clearing out low-level chaff, but also acting as spam units themselves. You know, you can bring in like a Vulcan to deal with chaff, but it's a single target unit and it can get focused on. So I really like, especially for going early game anti-chaff, I like Mustangs with high explosive rounds. You can see just how quickly they cut through all of it. Unfortunately, we don't have enough Mustangs in the middle to handle these fangs. They're going to continue to distract our Marksman. And we're going to lose pretty much as bad as we did last time. The other problem we're running into is that our Marksmen are dying too fast for us to get the experience points in order to level them up. If you get behind the curve on being able to level units, well, you're just not going to get caught up. Senior attack specialist, obviously. It's a little unfortunate on the timing because we need that money for other things, but you can't pass that up. So we're going to go with quick fire on our Marksman. Not really a thing that I like to pick for their first upgrade, but at the moment, our real problem is all their chaff. We need to get through the chaff quickly so that our Marksmen can get on their arc lights and their flyers. And yes, I could have gone with maybe a couple more squads of Mustangs, but I'm still trying to invest in the Marksmen for the long term. And the Mustangs are not the long-term solution, at least for the strategy that I'm going with. Now, of course, this is going to reduce our per shot damage from our Marksmen, but it's going to significantly increase their ability to get through all these spam units and get actually on the units that I want them to shoot at. See how much more quickly we got through all of that stuff? It's still unfortunately insufficient. They have picked up range on their arc lights, so we're not getting our range advantage that we'd like to have. But we're still getting back to about the same point in the fight. We're not losing a whole lot of health. And we did get more of their flyers out. Fortunately, our teammate is also losing his side. As long as we're not taking dramatic losses, though, we have time to scale up. Our teammate is focusing on Stormcallers. Our opponent, unfortunately, got more upgrades for their arc lights, and the arc lights are the threat. We've now also picked up increased damage for their arc lights. I'm not really sure that increased damage for the arc lights are making a difference. They're kind of one-shotting everything anyway. But they are AoE damage, and it's going to help them counter any kind of leveling up that I'm getting from those units. You know, should our units actually get enough experience points to be leveled up. So here we are thinking pretty hard about what we're going to do, because we know we're getting behind the curve. We need to get to the chaff more quickly so that our Marksmen can get on the arc lights. So we're going to do kind of a last-ditch effort here, bring in a couple more Mustangs, pre-level them. That way they get a little bit more of a damage boost, because when you go with high explosive ammo, it actually reduces their per shot damage. And hope that these can get ahead and clear out the path so that our marksman could finally start to get some kills and get some experience points on. Because right now, their experience points is coming from mostly killing fangs. So we cleared out that side. We had a little bit extra money, so we threw down a shield. But those arc lights just tore right through the shields. This is not working for us. We did get them down to just one Phoenix, however, so that helps a little bit. Especially since our teammate has Phoenixes. Unfortunately, the Phoenix just got shot out of the sky. Yeah, bad timing on the towers. We can see where this is going. Let's just go ahead and jump to round 6. Alright, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Clearly, the marksmen are not going to save the day. We need them to survive longer for them to get damage on target. It's kind of now or never on pivoting. So it's time to start investing in something that has more health. The Fortress. I personally am not a huge fan of the Fortress, but in this case, we need something with just kind of raw tanking power. Plus, there is a bit of cheesy strategy, which, again, the title of this video probably already has revealed. Now, I do not expect these two starting level 1 fortresses to turn the tide. We had 50 bucks left over, so clear some of the chaff. We just got to get them on the table. We've got to start investing in them. So, sure, they're level 1, they're not great, but it's something. And once they're on the table, we can start adding to them. I would like for them to have lasted a little bit longer, admittedly. Kind of disappointing, but not unexpected. This is really bad. This is a bad shift on our side. It looks like our teammate has also started to pivot to fortresses. More of his Phoenixes survived that time, which is good. And his Phoenixes are taking out the anti-air that our opponent had, so that helps considerably. Genuinely, we don't need to win by much. All we need to do is not take damage, or not take much damage. Because the pivot we're taking in our strategy is going to eventually give us the advantage because we did the pivot first. All we need is time. And now it's all about the fortresses. Keep in mind just how badly we lost last round. It was shameful. We're going to pick up Speed Specialist. I was kind of hesitant on it. I'd rather have just had the money. But fortresses are slow. And we need to get them on target more quickly. And so it begins. Rocket Punch. For those who are not familiar with Rocket Punch, when the fortress starts to take damage, when they get below 85% health, they fire a rocket, I guess their fist, that does 15,000 damage in a huge radius, 25-meter radius. They do that twice. They do it a second time when they get down to 55% health. And the damage scales with their level. An additional 15,000 every time they gain a level. The radius and the range and the damage of this ability honestly are absurd. So our opponent is trying to match us on the pivot for the fortress, but he's a turn behind. And I'm not sure I would have gone fortresses had I been him. Maybe melting points. But last round, we got decimated. Look what happened that round. Just unbelievable change. And it's all due to the rocket punches. Unfortunately, our teammate has lost his side. And it looks like his opponent has been stacking up a bunch of upgrades on their sledgehammers, and we don't have the area damage to deal with them. All of our rocket punches have already gone off. So we're going to lose this round. Now that hurt. We obviously cannot lose another round. Now I'm staring at my screen deciding between Lightning Storm and Advanced Firepower. Advanced Firepower is a longer term investment, because Lightning Storm is a one-shot deal. I actually end up going just with Bombardment, because we need money. Can't spend the money if I don't have the money. So I take Bombardment just to soften these up, because I know he's going to do more of this. And we add shielding to our fortresses and complete our line. And just whole swaths of units just disappear between the rocket punches. And with our marksmen walking behind them, there's no problems with the air. And we have a couple of fortresses, one of which did level up and has amplifying core that survived with their rocket punch intact. If we'd had those rocket punches last round, we would have won. This time it didn't even matter. So yeah, I mean, rocket punch is just crazy. And once you can start building up the fortress line with all those rocket punches, there's not much you can do about it. Especially with the shielding, it allows them to get into place before, you know, single target damage can take them out. It also helps protect them from, you know, EMPs shutting them down early on. Now, EMP is a counter to this, and I have countered these strategies with EMP Marksman, but a lot has to go right for that to happen, because if our opponent had survived another round and had gone EMP Marksman, I just would have spammed the front line with something simple like shielded fangs or more fortresses. Who knows? So I really would like to see this get a bit of a nerf at some point, but the game is still in early access and they are continually introducing balance changes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will continue to keep my eye out for interesting matches and post them for your viewing pleasure. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video. If you enjoyed this, you may want to check out one of these other videos, and thank you very much for your time.